The arts enrich communities across the country every single day. And its $400 million economic impact is demonstrated in a recent study conducted by the Americans for the Arts organization.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Joe Spector. I'm the President and General Director of Arizona Opera. It's such a pleasure to welcome you to our Arizona Opera Center this morning. This is a space that, by virtue of the art form, typically is not active at this hour. Opera is an art form that tends to exist sort of 7 p.m. and later. As you all may be aware, you signed a disclaimer coming in, but by virtue of being here this morning, you now have to appear in an Arizona Opera performance this season, so keep your calendars clear. I just want to add my thanks one more time to our wonderful performers, Vanessa Nagdi, Lauren Baptiste, and Hyunmi Lee. I can't tell you how much work it takes to sing that beautifully at this hour in the morning, so let's give them one more round of applause. It's been a decade that has passed since I retired from professional singing, including 5 years working in financial services with institutional investors, followed by a tenure as Director of Institutional Relations at the Metropolitan Opera. And I've been fortunate during that time to witness firsthand the virtuous cycle of strong arts organizations in a community, the win-win that exists when a thriving arts ecosystem helps to elevate a city and its economic development, which in turn magnifies its own ability to sustain and grow its local arts organizations. A fantastic example of this win-win dynamic is the building in which you sit this morning. Our company was incredibly fortunate to have benefited from the City of Phoenix's capital cultural bond projects, which provided generous funding for the new construction of this black box theater and the renovation of the remainder of this campus, which includes our box office, administrative, education, and production offices. The creation of this Opera Center and the emergence of a Central Arts District sends a powerful message to residents of this area and visitors alike that the City of Phoenix values the arts and values the impact of the arts on our community, inspiring the creation of new business opportunities, such as the 2 major arts-inspired housing complexes within a few hundred yards from here. Impact on our community is a value on which Arizona Opera has focused vigorously over the past years and is the cornerstone of our strategy for the years to come. The Arizona Bold program, initiated by Arizona Opera in 2013, began the process of rethinking our artistic and community engagement programming, putting communities that we serve at the center of our process in a way that we had never considered before. The program's first big success came in the form of Cruzar la Cara de la Luna, a mariachi-based opera presented in October 2014, featuring the talents of Mariachi Vargas. The most recent success of Arizona Bold came just this past spring with the presentation of Arizona Opera's first world premiere, Riders of the Purple Sage. Presented with the idea of inspiring our region with work that is locally resonant, this piece not only garnered international critical acclaim, but also attracted vast numbers of new opera goers to Symphony Hall, generating more single-ticket revenue than any other opera in the past 12 years of this company. Like all arts organizations, none of our work would be possible without tremendous community support. And while the vast majority of our funding continues to come from individual investors, Arizona Opera has been incredibly fortunate to benefit from an array of partnerships within the business community. From production-related support, such as that from APS, who is underwriting our fall performances of the unique and exciting film and live music hybrid Hercules versus Vampires, to our partnership with American Airlines, which enables us to fly international caliber artists from all over the country to perform in our productions at no cost to Arizona Opera, to our partnership with Wells Fargo, who generously underwrites our Opportunity in School program, which reaches 40,000 kids in schools annually. Investment of business in our arts organizations is an investment in our community and our quality of life, and, as I believe will be made clear this morning, fosters an even stronger environment for business in turn. One of the true champions of arts investment in Arizona and one of the most important supporters of Arizona Opera is represented here today. Copperpoint Insurance Companies, during one of the most trying times in our company's history only 3 years ago, made a crucial 7-figure investment in Arizona Opera, which in turn helped to spark a turnaround and a source of momentum for Arizona Opera, which carries forward even through today. It is an honor, an appropriate honor, to be able to recognize Copperpoint in the context of today's discussion. Copperpoint's leadership resulted in recognition as one of the country's best businesses partnering with the arts in America, an award that was bestowed by the Business Community for the Arts, a division of Americans for the Arts, I'd like to thank Judy Schumacher for joining us here this morning on behalf of our season sponsor for the past 3 seasons and the season yet to come. Thank you to you and to Copper Point for your humbling support. And now it is an honor to introduce a man who understands and embraces the role of the arts in elevating our community, Mayor Greg Stanton.
All right, good morning, everyone. Thanks, Gail, for helping to put this together. Joe, thanks for hosting us this morning and inviting everyone to our new breakfast opera series, I guess, here at the Arizona Opera Company. I like a little opera with my coffee. That's pretty good. Thank you again for hosting us and for this very, very exciting announcement of the incredible impact, cultural impact and financial impact that the arts have on our community. And of course, we're joined this morning by our friend Randy Cohen with Americans for the Arts, the organization that conducted the Arts and Economic Prosperity 5 study. This morning we'll discuss the conclusions of the reports and what it means for arts organizations in Phoenix. But let's give a big round of applause to Randy Cohen, American for the Arts, for being here with us today. Appreciate it. And I think just about everyone who is anyone with the arts community in this region is here at Arizona Opera this morning. So I want to thank everyone for being here. And I first want to recognize that a lot of you here helped to make this effort possible. Over 90 nonprofit arts and cultural organizations across Phoenix did participate in this study, helping us understand more about the total economic impact of your spending. And it's always awkward to talk about that because we don't want to in any way demean the impact that you have on our society and our understanding of humanity and all the benefits of the arts. But really today we're talking about money and business and how important you are to the economics of our community. Organizations of all shapes and sizes from all corners of our city participated in this study. So thank you for the work that you do for our community every single day. And thank you for participating in this important study so that we as a community can send a clear message. Investment in the arts and culture organization pays off big time for our city here in Phoenix and across the United States of America. So, what did we learn from this study? Well, here's what we learned. The bottom line, during fiscal year 2015, spending by nonprofit arts and culture organizations and their audiences totaled over $400 million in Phoenix. That's worth a round of applause. And I was lucky enough to participate in events somewhat similar to this in 2012, the last time we did this study, when we were bragging about $300 million. We've gone up over $100 million in just a short few years. That's great. That economic impact, $402 million, puts a dollar amount to a fact that we in this room already well know. Art does more than provide our residents with inspiration and high quality of life, although it does. It does more than strengthen the social fabric of our community, and don't we need that now more than ever? But nonprofit arts and cultural organizations are businesses, and businesses that are worth investing in. They are businesses that employ great people here locally, purchase goods and services from other local businesses, and of course attract tourists from around the country and the world. Their audiences spend money on arts-related events and generate revenue for other local businesses, including restaurants, retail, stores, and hotels. Our arts and cultural organizations in Phoenix served nearly 7 million attendees in 2015. And those attendees spent $237 million on related expenses. That's about $35 per person in our community. That's money going right back into our local economy. In a job like mine, these numbers are important. They help me articulate to our city management or to our leaders in our business community why should we be investing even more in the arts. But for most of us here today, we've seen the impact of these organizations in ways that go far beyond the bottom line. I grew up here in Phoenix. I'm a local kid, and my parents made sure that the 4 Stanton kids were exposed to local arts organizations. On many weekends, my family took the City of Phoenix bus downtown to see free Phoenix Symphony Pops concerts or shows at Phoenix Little Theater. I'm dating myself by Phoenix Little Theater. If you're old school, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Or we'd have picnics at Patriot Square in downtown. Today, as mayor, I'm lucky to see a downtown Phoenix that has been completely revitalized and transformed by the arts. Our urban core is home to some of the region's most iconic public art, not to mention our renowned arts institutions. Whether you want to see a play or a musical or go to a ballet or a symphony or see some great art shows on Roosevelt Road, visit a cultural center, take an art class, or spend a day at the museum, you can find these important assets right here in the heart of our city. And what's more, most of these institutions are located right on light rail, making them accessible to residents and tourists alike. These organizations enrich our community and make Phoenix more interesting and attractive place to live and visit. They create opportunities for learning and teaching and for exploring new ideas and cultures. In a community as diverse as we are blessed to be, the arts are a platform for bringing people together. And let me say, we brag a lot about how well we are doing in downtown Phoenix, and we've invested a lot in transportation and convention centers, hotels, all the things that you have read about to help with our downtown revitalization. But make no mistake, the #1 reason that we've been so successful in the heart of our city is because of the talented artists and art organizations, big and small, larger institutions, and what they've done to create Roosevelt Row and Grand Avenue as some of the most interesting places to visit in the entire city. That has been the secret sauce, the most important factor in the revitalization of the heart of our city. And I'm proud that now I'm lucky enough to be raising my own family and exposing them to the arts as well. We've got great arts organizations, and my kids get to experience it as well, whether they participate in Valley Youth Theater Summer or Phoenix Theater, not Phoenix Little Theater, in Phoenix Theater classes during this summer as well. There are art camps. I'm blessed that my family gets to benefit from well. And we get to spend our Saturdays at Children's Museum or Science Center or the MIM, et cetera, or spending our first Fridays on Roosevelt Row. But it's not just my kids. We all have to be concerned that every kid in our city has an opportunity to be exposed to great arts and culture and humanities in our city. We want that for every Phoenix child. That's why we have also great programs like Great Start in Phoenix, an initiative that gives rising kindergartners and their family the opportunity to visit our great arts and culture institutions for free. And for many of you in this room, you participate in the Great Start program, giving those kids from all socioeconomic backgrounds the opportunity to have that great cultural enrichment. And from the bottom of my heart, I say thank you. We're reaching more than 2,000 kids just this past summer through our City of Phoenix Great Start program and giving them and their families important cultural experiences that, of course, will stay with them, just like it did for me growing up, for the rest of their lives. At the City of Phoenix, we've worked to make sure that funding for the arts doesn't become a thing of the past. We're in our budget, we do more than we ever have before in terms of grants for the arts programs. We've increased that. It's not nearly enough, so I don't want to suggest otherwise. We have more work to do. But of the money we do spend for art grants programs, there is a $26 return on investment for every dollar we spend. It is a great public investment by the people of the City of Phoenix. The numbers make it clear. When we invest in the arts, those investments pay great dividends. But for all of these big dollar figures, it's important to note that we have more work to do. You, our arts and culture leaders and organizations, are generating a significant impact, but we all need to do more. I mentioned that the economic impact, the spending is up over $100 million just in the last 5 years. But that increase comes exclusively from spending by people attending the events. The arts organizations themselves, that number is flat. That means you have been fiscally responsible. You've been good organizations. You are not spending more yourselves. That means our arts and culture organizations reach more people, sold more tickets, and made more money without increasing your operating budgets. That means we, the city, the business community, other supporters of the arts, we needed to step up and do more to support you. And I think we can do more to support these organizations that bring such value to our city by being a true champion for the arts doesn't just mean rooting for you, cheering from the sidelines. It also means giving back. Businesses in our community need to step up their game and do even more to support our arts organizations. We can expand donor circles, for example. We want the message to get out today that arts are good for our economy, good for our community, and they can grow and reach additional people, benefit more kids in our city with additional support. Look, as mayor, I feel so blessed to live and work in a city rich with history and culture, with strong arts organizations that shape our community and strengthen the quality of life for residents all over this city. And I want to say, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank you for what you do. This is great news, this report that we are issuing today and giving out this important information. This is great news about the economic impact that arts organizations, arts and culture organizations provide to this community. And I just want to say, as mayor, thank you for what you do to advance your organizations and their missions. Please keep it up. A great report for the city of Phoenix. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mayor Stanton. We are so fortunate that Randy Cohen from Americans for the Arts was able to come from Washington, D.C. to deliver this report in person. So please welcome him, Randy Cohen.
All right, good morning, everyone. I just want to, again, say thank you, Mayor Stanton. Great remarks. I'm right now traveling on a 60-city jag across the country talking about this national study, and you're hard-pressed to find that kind of mayoral leadership. Let me tell you, cities around the country would be lining up for that, so thank you, Mr. Mayor. Excellent. And thank you all for having me here. It's great to be out of Washington. So, a city where nobody's encumbered by the facts these days, to talk about a great story about economic impact to the arts. This is a whole different way to talk about the arts. Let me tell you what I'm not going to talk about today. How the arts inspire us, how that beautiful, beautiful music brings us joy and community engagement and inspires us and creates the kind of communities that we live in and want to work in. Arts are a fundamental component of our humanity. They're part of our soul. We're going to stipulate that today, and I'm going to challenge you to think about the arts a little bit differently. As an industry, we're going to change the story about the arts from one of charity to one of business, an industry that supports jobs, generates government revenue, and is the cornerstone of tourism. Now, I actually got to go to an arts event recently. You know, you think with Americans for the Arts on my business card, I'm going to the arts all the time, right? But a couple weeks ago, it was date night with my wife, and we were going to a dance event. Actually, side note, newly an empty nester, glorious. And if you're coming soon on this, it's wonderful. And I am therefore now a ballroom dancer. We've taken up ballroom dancing. So it's great. So this was actually a tango thing. Usually I'm going to the theater, I'm going to the opera. That's where we're headed. So dance is this new thing for me. So, but we heard about this performance. And so what did? We went home, we got online, found the website of the theater and had the right performance and punched in our credit card number and printed out our tickets and we were all set. It was 2 Fridays from now, right? You know, if you're doing date night, right, you know, it happens in advance, the planning. So, force forward 2 Fridays and got home and I was informed by my wife we'd be dressing up for dinner and there was a new necktie waiting for me. So, you know, the evening hadn't even begun and there was already some retail spending involved. And, you know, on the way to the theater, we stopped and we had dinner, right? Dinner and a show. Isn't that something we do all the time? And we went to a really nice restaurant, spent $75, had a lovely meal, and then it was back in the car, parked at the parking garage next to the theater, peeled off my $10, got my little stub from the clerk, and into the theater. It's one of those beautiful historic theaters that's been restored, and I know we have some of those here in town as well. And you know, we got our programs and we looked at the beautiful frescoes on the wall and sat in the audience and, you know, looked at the beautiful chandeliers and we read about the dancers and the performance we're about to see. Now, just pause there real quick because it's only 5 minutes to 8. You know, the performance hasn't even started yet. But think of all the industries that have already been touched just because of this one date night to a dance performance. Well, it started 2 weeks before when we went online and got our tickets. Arts organizations employ web designers and programmers, and you got all the people that do the e-commerce there, so you got the finance and banking people. They're seeing some of this benefit. And then, I'm not sure where the necktie came from, but somebody, you know, made a little benefit on that. And then it was off to the restaurant. $75. It was one of those farm-to-fork places, so everything's grown within 50 miles of the restaurant. And so some of those dollars are going to the growers and the producers of the food. The waiter who waited on us is getting some personal income, the owner of the restaurant, some entrepreneurial income, you know, the chef on down the line, right? We know how all that works. And then it was off to the parking garage, a municipally owned garage, you'll be glad to know, Mr. Mayor. And every time someone's going to that performance at that building, they're all parking in that garage. $10, $10 every time, thousands of times a week. So the city's seeing some real benefit there as well. And then into the theater. And you know, it's a beautiful space, and you know, you've got you know, use the restrooms. You got plumbers. I mean, this is like our home, right? You need plumbers. You need electricians. We got our program. You ever notice, even here this morning, every time we go to an arts event, we're always getting paper. Someone's got to write that. Someone's got to design it. The printers in the community benefit big time from the arts organizations. And then somebody even has to deliver it. So you have all those industries that are touched. And then finally we sat down in the audience and again read the program. And I used to run a theater. I could tell you those beautiful chandeliers, those are not interns changing those light bulbs. You know, you got to get electricians up there to do that. So all the trades are benefiting from the evening. Now the curtain goes up. That's when people start to think about the arts as an industry. Oh, well, those dancers are getting paid something, you know, and, you know, set designers in the beautiful place. And so what this study does is it's just going to expand our thinking about how the arts touch industries across the community. And that's what we're after today. Phoenix was one of 341 study regions. It's part of our national study. Everybody catch that technical effect there? That's all me, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. We were in all 50 states plus DC. We studied communities as small as 1,500 people all the way up to 4 million. Obviously, we're in Phoenix here. We also did Mesa, the West Valley community. So communities across the country. It doesn't matter if you're a large urban city, a small rural community, an suburban area. If the arts are happening there, there's an economic benefit. Now, I want to tell you, we focus solely on the nonprofit arts and culture industry. Why just nonprofits? Because when the city's making those investments in the arts, and same with our private sector funders, those dollars are typically going to a nonprofit. And it's appropriate to ask the question, well, all right, we get quality of life benefits, but what's some of those other ROI benefits that we get? What is the public getting for that investment in the arts? And so that's what we're after today, and that's what we're looking at. Spending by the organizations and their audiences. Well, what do we find out? Spending right here, economic activity, and this is for 2015, $401.8 million of economic activity. I mean, we're nearly in the $500 million range here. Now, that figure, as you can see, is composed of two numbers. Spending by the organizations themselves. Quick word about that. And also, by the way, we take a very conservative approach to economic impact. We surveyed 161 arts organizations working with the Office of Arts and Culture, who did a fabulous job on this. Heard back from 90 of you. That's what we go with. We only use data from the organizations that provide it. We don't make estimates for non-respondents. We can put our hands all over these dollars. So you can feel really solid about these numbers. And the fact is, it's conservative. There's even more out there. I'll say we got all the big institutions and probably most of the mid-size. These are most of the dollars, but not all the dollars. $164.6 million in spending. That right there is a myth buster for folks. You know, arts are businesses. We just don't think of them that way. We think of them as these wonderful, you know, gems of our community. But the fact is they employ people locally, purchase goods and services in the community, are members of the Chamber of Commerce, and involved in the marketing and promotion of the region. Arts organizations are good business citizens. And like any business, they have an economic impact. Unlike most industries, however, they generate all this event-related spending, and that's the dinner and the parking and that type of thing. Those 90 responding organizations, 6.8 million attendees. That is another number that popped big time since we did this study 5 years ago. Huge amount of attendance. And the typical attendee spends $34.80 per person per event, not including the cost of admission. You pack all that up, that's where you get that $237.2 million in economic activity. And that, in total, 401.8. So everyone good on that? Where the dollars came from? All right, what's the economic impact of that? And how do you figure that out? Well, we work with a team of economists from Georgia Tech School of Economics who customize an economic model for every single community that we study. Why? Because $50 spent in Phoenix is going to have a different economic impact than $50 spent in LA and $50 spent in Dallas. These are very localized numbers. It takes 1 million calculations to come up with these findings. So really rigorous stuff. What's the first thing we look at? Jobs. Talk to most of your elected leaders. What are their 3 priorities? Jobs, jobs, and jobs. You know, it's what we're paying attention to these days. 12,815 jobs supported right here in Phoenix. Not just at the arts organizations themselves, but community-wide, right? Remember, we're all those different industries that are touched. Even in a global economy, the arts are very local employers, and that's really an important thing. These aren't the kind of jobs that are going to be offshored. You know, if we go and see a performance at the opera, you know, we're not going to be happy if it's, you know, 1 soprano and 38 Macintosh computers or something, right? I mean, you don't get those kinds of efficiency in technology. But the upside is those are jobs, and that's what makes the arts great. Art, not just food for the soul, but putting food on the table for 12,815 households right here in Phoenix. What's another number we look at? Government revenue. $44.5 million in revenue to local and state government. Now, this shows that that government investment, that public sector investment, isn't some kind of one-way ride here. It returns back to the government. You know, the arts aren't a black hole of goodness where those dollars disappear. It's generating needed revenue for the city. It's supporting jobs. Small investment, big return. So another great story there. All right, let's get back to, I think, just one of the most fascinating pieces. How did we get that audience data? We surveyed 818 arts attendees at a whole range of arts events. Now, we didn't just go to the opera every night. You know, that's going to be a much nicer dinner for me and my wife, compared to when I took the kids to a Saturday theater matinee, 2 ice cream cones and you're out, right? So, and so we survey a whole range of events and museums and exhibitions and free festivals. Again, a very conservative approach. The typical attendee to a nonprofit arts and cultural event spends $34.80 per person per event, not including the cost of admission. And you can see how that breaks down there on the left. You got, there's my dinner, and then up here in the upper right, some souvenirs, gifts, there's my necktie and my parking, ground transportation. Lodging, some of you might be looking at lodging. Wow, can you still get a room for $4.87? And would you want to if you could? Yeah, no, you wouldn't. Remember, just a percentage of people have a lodging cost, so I'll give you that. So nationally, we did 212,000 audience surveys as part of this study. Other starts to take on a lot of really interesting findings, when you ask that many people a question. One of my favorites was a farmer in Wisconsin who spent $60 to pay somebody to milk his cows so he could go to the theater that night. Isn't that great? I love that. So lots of economic activity. This, by the way, is ahead of the national average also. Nationally, $31.47. So we're seeing 10% spending per person more per year in the community. In addition to how much did you spend, we also asked folks for their zip code. Because we want to find out, do you live right here in the county? Are you local? Or are you from outside the county? 19% of the attendees came from outside the county. And that's a pretty big number. 1 in 5. You got to travel a ways to get here from outside the county. Does their spending differ? You bet it does. $68.80 per person per event, not including the cost of admission. We didn't even stop asking questions yet. That's how annoying we are. We asked those non-local attendees a really simple question. Why are you here? You're here on business, you're here visiting friends and family. 29% of those non-local attendees said, we came specifically for this arts event. So you can really start to see the pulling power now that the arts bring. And That's where we find most of the lodging dollars. Of those non-local attendees, 19%, 24% of them had an overnight expense. They average $142 per person per event. So, you get that head in a bed, that's when the cash registers really start ringing. And so that starts to show evidence of how the arts are really helping to drive tourism. Now, bringing people in is one thing, keeping people here is another thing. And we asked the local attendees at the arts events, well, what if this arts event wasn't taking place? Would you have stayed home, done something else? 51%, more than half said, oh, we traveled to a different community to attend a similar kind of arts event. So isn't that interesting? Art spending, it's a discretionary expenditure. It's not food or rent. You could spend it here or there or not at all. And so what this shows is that when we invest in the arts, we're investing in a product. Draws people to the community, and those people spend money. Not only that, it keeps our neighbors and their hard-won discretionary dollars right here in town. A vibrant arts community is good for local merchants. And, that's why, when you get those champions for the arts, talk to those restaurateurs. They'll tell you, I can see it in my business. It's cheeks and seats. It's derrieres and cafe chairs, right? They know when there's some great art happening. One of the other great pieces we asked about this was volunteerism. Just those, and this is the story, I love the Citizen Army, right? Just the responding organizations, over 12,000 volunteers that contributed 482,000 hours. I know many of you are right in here right now. That's also what it takes to keep this arts and culture community vibrant, contributing, and bringing cultural product to the people. You can put a dollar value on the independent sector pegs the 2015 dollar value, $23.50 for the average volunteer hour. You do the math, that's $11.4 million in volunteer value. Now that's not part of that $402 million we talked about, but an important part of the story. Let me give you another important part of this story. When you go to the Office of Arts and Culture's website, you'll find the full 30-page report there, and the cover looks kind of like this. Look on the last page, and because you're going to find our national partner organizations. Washington, D.C., it's the land of national organizations, right? There's so many national organizations. There's a national organization for the national organizations. But you can make that work for you. So you see up there on the left, the U.S. Conference of Mayors. That's where all our big city mayors go to twice a year to get together and talk about the issues they're working with. So end of June in Miami, one of the orders of business at the U.S. Conference of Mayors meeting was to pass a series of resolutions. One of them, passing unanimously, was touting arts and economic prosperity, your study, and encouraging mayors across the country to support the arts for quality of life and for the economic benefits. Now, that's happening here, but again, this is how we reach mayors. And you've got the National League of Cities, you've got International City County Managers Association. You'll find all these different organizations up there, National Conference of State Legislatures. So when you're advocating for state funding for the arts, talk about that. How about if you're a funder, you got the Council on Foundations and the independent sector. If you're in the business community, the Conference Board. That's the national organization for the Fortune 1000 companies in this country. They are national partners on this study, your study, because A, they too believe the arts have a fundamental role as part of a healthy community. And B, they buy into the methodology and they buy into the results. You can feel confident about using these data with your leaders. So that's arts and economic prosperity. It's an industry, $401.8 million industry, supports 12,815 jobs and generates $44.5 million in revenue to local and state government. So that is an investment that's just checking all the boxes in community development. It's wonderful. Let me just quickly widen the lens for you on economic impact. Because we're talking about economic impact here. I just want to show you two quick things because economic impact is a fabulous, of the arts, a fabulous, expansive story. Oh, actually, let me give you this piece real quick. One of this, a study we did last year looking at the, one of the largest public opinion surveys of the arts ever conducted. And no surprise, on the right side there, 87% of the population says, yes, the arts improve our quality of life, create the communities that we want to live in. But interestingly, 82% of the public says the arts are good for local businesses and good for the local economy. So when our community leaders are investing in the arts, you know what? The public really is getting this. So you know, you've got their support and they've got your back on this. Let's really quickly widen our lens beyond just the nonprofit to the nonprofit and for-profit industry, right? Because that's something we ask about. What about, nonprofit theater, museum, opera, ballet? What about those for-profit film, architecture, design, publishing? Well, Creative Industries Business and Employment for the Arts looks at that. I use Dun & Bradstreet as my data source, which is the most comprehensive and trusted source for business information in the United States. They track 18 million business establishments and code them so you know exactly what they do. And then I just thought, well, let's just carve out the arts ones and see, and then break it down by city and county look. And I can tell you right here, Maricopa County, 9,707 arts businesses that employ nearly 32,000 people. Nationally, 3.9% of all businesses are arts-centric businesses involved in the creation or the distribution of the arts. Right here in the county, 4.4%. So we're running ahead of the national average. When we think about this creative economy, this innovation economy, it's happening here. The arts help drive all of that. So there's some fabulous metrics on that as well. And again, just arts-centric businesses. It doesn't include medical research, doesn't include computer programming, both of which are creative, but not arts-focused. I'll tell you a quick story. I was sharing these data with some economists not long ago, and one of them asked me, okay, I get the arts thing. Did you include morticians in your codes and that you looked at? And I thought, no, bring it. Maybe I'm missing something here, you know? And well, he said, well, aren't morticians actually involved in the presentation as a presenter of the body, using lighting and makeup and a new suit, and he never looked as good alive as he does now. So anyway, true story, there are no morticians in this. You can feel good about these data. Let me give you one last number real quick and really keep widening the economic lens. The United States government, the United States Bureau of Economic Analysis, the top economics shop really on the planet, they're into the whole economic impact of the arts research now as well. And so they widen the lens even further to include nonprofit, for-profit, and commercial businesses, university theater departments, artists, anywhere where a dollar is changing hands related to the arts. And you know what they found? Nationally, it's a $730 billion industry. This is the Bureau of Economic Analysis talking at Commerce. That is 4.2% of the nation's economy. That's a bigger share of the economy than agriculture, than transportation, than tourism. So no matter how you slice it, no matter how you dice it, the arts mean business. Thank you very much.
What it points to is how important the arts and humanities are to a thriving culture. We've always known that because one of the things that we do is make sure that cultural events are accessible to people across the entire state of Arizona.
It's really, it's going to be beneficial for us, and I think it really tells us why the arts aren't a charitable expense, but they're an industry that provides a return on investment.
The economic impact story underscores the fact that arts and culture are not a luxury, they are a necessity.